Chapter 9. Discovering the Path. After returning to Japan, I visited my martial arts instructor, Shizen Osaki-sensei, and told him of the vision as it pertained to him and the homework I had been given. Of course, he could have thought me crazy and turned me down, but despite my fear, I told him anyway. I told him that I wanted to combine martial and therapy training, and that through this combination something new would be born, a simple and clear path to enlightenment. I asked him if he would be willing to go down this path of exploration with me. To my surprise, he responded with excitement about the idea. Before I left for my Amazon trip, he had a problem knee that was making training difficult. He had used Sotaiho to help him recover, so as a result, he too became interested in bodywork. In the Amazon vision, I saw that when I had gone far enough down the path of enlightenment, an energetic field would serve to protect against malicious intent. I told Sensei about this effect, and also that, at a sufficient level of enlightenment, we would be able to execute the entirety of our martial arts skills without any effort or thought. What this really meant was that meditation would become the core of our training. We began first with uncovering the meditation by way of practicing Sotaiho on each other. There was a feeling in the body that we discovered after receiving therapy. Eventually, we were able to tune to this feeling purely through meditation, and then by using this feeling, we could apply therapy to each other without using techniques. In this way, the therapy became technically liberated. We could easily detect areas of heaviness in the body and use the energetic touch that we had discovered to free up the energy in that area. We discovered that we could go into this meditation, search our own bodies for low-frequency places, and merely by lightly intending toward that spot, we found that our bodies would begin to move on their own. It is a spooky experience at first because the body will move quite dramatically as it naturally stretches itself out and opens up energetic pathways. Previously, my body had moved on its own out of self-defense, but that movement occurred only in extreme situations, such as when the horse tried to kick my head. Now that response was happening easily and in non-threatening situations. We paid attention to the feeling in the body during these sessions, fed that feeling back into our meditations, and soon a protective field began to emerge around our bodies when in meditation. I noticed only because after meditation, Sensei's body felt to me like it was radiant, and when he asked me to attack him, I couldn't, no matter how I tried. It seemed as if an invisible wall stood between us. The phenomenon was so strange that at first I wondered whether I was just imagining it. He remained in that state, standing there relaxed in front of me, for quite a long time before the effect wore off. This effect confirmed for me one of the points from the Amazon vision. The next day, we began our training session with meditation, again trying to find that feeling. After some time, Sensei again found it, and I could not attack. I was able to move effortlessly when grabbed and execute many techniques that I previously could not do, but the protective field was not there for me. With persistence, we kept at this for several weeks. Not once was I able to get it right. Many times Osaki-sensei succeeded, though. At this point, about a year had already passed since the Amazon trip, and the therapy method had evolved tremendously, as did the martial art and the meditation. We needed to test the field thoroughly but safely, so we used a hard hat. One of us would put on the helmet and sit on the floor in meditation, and the other would try to hit him on the head with a leather-padded bamboo sword. Sensei was often successful in reaching the meditative state that produced the protective field. Yet I did not have a single success until a session some weeks later, when Sensei came in to hit me as hard as he could. He got halfway through his swing, and his foot slammed into the ground, propelling his body backward, his sword frozen in midair. He looked like he was in pain. Slowly he put down the sword and sat cross-legged in front of me. "You know," he confided, "I have been thinking you were only stopping your swings because you had brainwashed yourself into believing that you could not hit me. I was getting tired of this useless training and wanted to make you give up, so I swung as hard as I could to discourage you from this kind of training. I wanted to work on something real. But to my amazement, this time, when I swung, it was as if I hit a brick wall. My foot hit the ground so hard that my heel hurts. It really worked. I have to admit, it really worked. Let's break for tea. I want to consider this for a bit." After this success, we practiced more enthusiastically than ever. I started to get a better feel for the meditation and gradually had more success with the protective field as well, Session after session brought new discoveries and realizations that kept us busy for hours. We poured our new understanding back into the traditional martial arts as Sensei introduced me to advanced skills in the sword, staff, and open hand, using the feeling from meditation and therapy as the engine for the traditional forms. My martial arts improved dramatically, and within a few years I was given instructor's licenses in the 4 samurai arts that Sensei had taught at that time. During my last year in Japan, I stopped working entirely and focused solely on training with Sensei privately. At this time, I came every day with some new insight as to how the training needed to go that day for progress. I didn't know how I knew, I just knew. We would start at 1 p.m. and continue training until 6 p.m., break for dinner, and then continue with the regular group classes from 7 p.m. until 9 or 10 p.m. I was training 5 days a week for at least 6 hours a day and making rapid progress. Still, I was often unable to get the protective field effect because I really did not understand what was occurring to cause it, and the more I thought about it, the further from it I was. During this training, both Sensei and I regularly became quite exhausted, and after a few hours, we had to break for rest. It seemed to me that we were using too much willpower to produce this effect. The Amazon vision showed me that this would eventually be an effortless, constant field, but we had yet to discover how. Also, the time and effort we took to activate this field made it highly impractical for a real situation that required an immediate response. I knew we still had more to discover, but I also knew that I needed to return to America. It was not logical, but I saw clearly that it was time for the next step in my journey, and that step had to occur in America. In my last 6 months in Japan, I received the master's license and, with Sensei's blessing, was sent out to teach. I asked Sensei to help me find a name for this new training method, and he suggested Shinkaido, which means open heart path. Shinkaido is more of a description of the method than a name, because through the process of opening the heart, our unfoldment occurs. I moved to a small town in southern Oregon and began teaching a few dedicated individuals. I was new at teaching and quite nervous about it, so I taught only technically and did not get into the meditation until well over a year after I left Japan. Due to my identification as a teacher, I just could not relax enough to make use of the Shinkaido method. Of course, I harbored a fear of failure and being embarrassed if I were unsuccessful. I also feared that the effect would be so startling to people that it might scare them off. Eventually, I began to relax into the teaching role and introduced a basic meditation that my students could practice for just 10 minutes before each class. My students really seemed to enjoy this meditation, so I incorporated it into regular training. They had been working on a challenging beginning technique and for 6 months had not been having much success, but after the meditation, they could do the technique easily and without any thought. They were very surprised by this, and from that point they requested that I make the meditation a primary part of training. Around that time, a woman from whom I had been renting space for therapy in a neighboring town became very interested in having me teach meditation classes there. A small group of individuals met there every Tuesday night, and I led them through a basic meditation for an hour, assisting them to move toward greater and greater harmony in their lives. The goal was to have a little more relaxation and awareness each week. They made rapid progress. About this time, I began mentoring private students several times per week for 3 hours each session. I found that they gained much more from the concentrated 3 hours than they would gain from 3 hours spread over 3 weeks. So we set up a full Saturday of training as an experiment. They advanced tremendously from that one day. Whereas before a tiny distraction would cause them to collapse out of meditation, I was then able to use more intense stimulus to test them, but their meditation would hold strong. I had been away from Japan for 2 years, and I suddenly felt strongly pulled to visit my teacher there. 3 months later, I was knocking at my teacher's door. I lived in his dojo for 10 days, during which time we practiced from 7 a.m. until 2 the next morning, living on meditation and coffee. During this time, both Sensei and I regained our footing in the advanced Shinkaido method of martial training, as neither of us had been working with it since I left Japan. This intensely concentrated time proved incredibly powerful for me. I gained a deeper awareness of intention, the mind, consciousness, and isness, plus a new confidence to practice this method and even to teach it. When I returned to the United States, I began holding weekend intensives to help students reach deeper awareness of inner harmony and remain there for extended periods of time. The rate of progress became truly impressive as the presence of each student deepened at an astounding rate. When students had questions for me about the process, I turned the questions back at them, and they were often able to answer themselves through direct insight. A teacher could not have been more pleased. Before the first intensive, I was not sure what I was going to teach, so I prepared a detailed schedule of activities and teachings. As soon as the students sat down in front of me, my hand reached over and put the plan behind me. All teachings emerged spontaneously, and many of the things I taught were new to me as well as to the students. I found it exhilarating to realize that I did not need to plan anything, and answers would just flow out of my mouth. Little by little, the students were able to tune more accurately to consciousness, allowing it to flow. Their lives were becoming more enriched and stable. Their minds and emotions became more transparent and mild. When they lost ability, they realized it quickly and recovered harmony. In only a year's time, they went from near total energetic instability to a point where they were ready to teach introductory meditation themselves. I could not have hoped for quicker progress. I firmly believe that tuning to consciousness will end violence on the planet. When students understand and prove in their own bodies that love is more powerful than violence, then violence has had its last breath. My hope is that the reader joins us in taking this leap of consciousness as we move out of reactive mind and into conscious unfoldment. I'd like to thank you for listening to the first 9 chapters of The Unbound Soul. If you missed any, you can look into the video section or the section about books from Richard L. Haight to review or see those chapters that you missed. And please know that you've been exposed to about 1/4 of the book. There's 216 pages in content, and of which you've listened to about 49 pages. The content gets deeper and deeper as we go. You're going to enter into one heck of an adventure. It's rich in meaning, rich in depth, and rich in growth. I hope you'll take the challenge, and you can find the full audiobook through any audiobook retailer that you like. In the description below, you'll find links for Audible that you can use to access the book in different countries. And also, if you're not an Audible member and you would like to consider subscribing, you can get a copy of this audiobook, The Unbound Soul, for free. I'll include instructions for this process in the description below. I'm sharing with you the content of The Unbound Soul, the first part of The Unbound Soul, for a specific reason, and I'll be sharing some of my other books in the upcoming weeks and months. We reached a time on this planet that I had hoped we wouldn't reach. You might recall from Chapter 8, The Amazon, the prediction of the changes to come. And there are some important points, some important symptoms, some important signs that I have been watching for, and some of which have just in the last few weeks come true. And so I'll be sharing more details and, most importantly, some of the key points from other books that I've written that will help you to make some sense of it over the next few months. So, go ahead and please subscribe, and it helps a lot to get this work out, to get this word out. If you will comment, if you will like, if you will subscribe. This is how the algorithm works on the various platforms that we share these videos. When you subscribe, it tells the platform. When you like and when you comment, it tells the platform to show this to more people. And right now, it's critical that we get this message out to the world. There isn't all that much time left to wake people up. And there isn't all that much time left for us to wake ourselves up. If we share this content, not only will it help other people to wake up, but we will have contributed, done something useful and helpful to humanity. I will be making some videos aside from content from my books to explain in more detail what's going on, and so that you get an understanding of what you might expect to come in the coming years, and also how you might prepare yourself spiritually and physically. And I appreciate your support and any questions that you might have with regard to the changes that are coming. with regard to how to develop yourself, to adapt to these changes, and even how to introduce some of these ideas to loved ones and friends. Please write them in the comments, and I am more than happy to answer what I can. Thank you so much. And if you look in this upper corner, you'll see a link to the next book that I'm going to share. And in this corner, if you haven't watched all the videos of the Unbound Soul and you'd like to go back, this will take you back to chapter 1, and so that you can easily watch up to this point if you've missed anything. Be well.